Hello everyone, welcome. We are casting a match here on Bloodmoon. Team 1 ANS, we've got Das, Heaven-Based aka Herman, Vostal, and Jeffsky. Team 2 in the Orange Trunks OSP, we've got Caiaphas Payne, we've got Dr. Bladesteel, we've got Davened, and we've got Jordan. So this is going to be a fun match here. Got 3 neutral points, B point, C point, A point. We've got natural points on both teams, D point and E point. We've seen this map before. It's gotten its rework into the Bloodmoon Remaster, which has the Caltrop device in the middle, the various little rocks going off it. So we're going to have a fun time with this one. Might put this one up on YouTube because I posted one just recently, and people have seemed to like that. I should check out the performance of that is doing after this, but anyways, we'll see what we end up getting. Also, remember, spectators, if you are going to be talking, remember to be using yourself in the team chat here. We do not want to pollute the all chat channel because that is, again, just good sportsmanship. Let the players play their game out and then have their comms and things. So you can give a little good luck, have fun and stuff, though, and we'll see how things end up going. Also, the good old Nebulous terms, Drog, Grum. I'll be honest, Chief, I don't know where we get half of these ones from or what they even mean. I don't think most of the player base knows either, but hey, it's all good fun. All right, let's do some Nebulous nonsense, shall we? 10 or so seconds to go. Should be a good game here, I hope. All right, we'll go through the fleets real fast. I believe Vostal's deploying to the top of the map, looking to fight for C point, as well as a lot of OSP tonnage coming on that right side. We'll see what we get on the drop here, seeing some drive trails as we come in. All right, the DOS fleet showing off a little bit of Voxel. Ooh, 250 variety. Defenders all around, nice stuff. I think we'll start with them. Oh, the text on this looks, weird kerning on that. Interesting. All right, anyways, let's get into the fleets. So, DOS coming in here with C... Okay, there we go. Yeah, all right. Just trying to get a sense of that. This guy, Chaffbox on the side here, and then Mark 64s all the way around. Pretty cool stuff. Size 3 backpack. Has some hybrids in there. Very cool. I'm going to see what we got over here. We've got another one of these things with Chaffbox on this side. There you go. So, dual Voxel there. Again, more of those missiles. Whiplash Raider. Good stuff. We've got ourselves over here a whole bunch. Ooh, torpedoes are hybrids. A couple of those extra hybrids. Interesting stuff. Just adding a bit more missile. And then lastly, we're going to have another one of these. All right. I'm wondering if these are meant to be like run independent or if this is all just one blob. Kind of cool. Okay, Herman over here is trying the double levy strategy. So we're just getting some reactions there. We got a couple of bombers in one and then a whole bunch of Tantos in here. That is a lot of Tanto. Sure if I can count exactly how much that is. I want to say that's like, let's see, that's 18 there, which makes 20, and then this is going to be another 12, so that'd be like 24, 26 Tantos in the one, and I want to say about that much in the other one. 4 bombers, and then probably, yeah, about the same, so some of them getting out there as they have a sundial. Okay, so that's got to be a lot of air control power there, so we'll see what they do with that. Jeffsky coming in here with Task Force Birch adjacent. Not seeing anything too stand out. Has a blanket jammer on top. Internals check. Dragonfly drive. Oh, that's a little unusual. Don't see that very often, but kind of cool to see some variety in here. Another blank jammer and dragonfly. And then lastly, probably going to be... Yeah, okay, so it looks like just 3 of the same here. Yeah, okay, so interesting stuff. Just frontline on this. Do you have a parallax in here? You do not. Okay, so a little vulnerable there on radar side. All right, well, interesting triplets. We get Vostal up here with the mighty 450 battleship. Oh, yeah, look at this thing against the big old backdrop there. It is coming out to play. Ooh, that is very cool. I love that. Anyways, Vostal accompanied by, looks like Floodlight, Blanket, Jammer, and VLS. This is just Chaffbox, right? Yeah, because there's just a little bit of chaff in E-War. This one has VLS 2 for some of those SDMs. Cool stuff. All right, that's the initial kind of ANS fleets there. We see one of them going down here and capping the D point. That's one of DOS's, yeah, their little, call it a torpedo, but it's actually more of a hybrid brick. Anyways, let's see what the OSP has brought to counter them. Caiaphas Payne coming in with, looks like a 450 Acello Auroras on the side, Bullseye on top. Has a Dazzler in the back here, big reinforced drive and a Whiplash. Interesting combo, very cool. Along with that, we're going to see its friend here accompanying it, same kind of drive setup. Spyglass on this one, Comms Jammer, Dazzler. Are these both Spy or... These are both Spyglass. Interesting choice. Expected a Parallax. All right, Davened over here. Again, going for the right side death stack. We have got a very empty nose of this thing because it is running triple railguns. 1, 2, 3 energy regulators for a lot of rate of fire on this thing. Spyglass and a couple of Auroras. So that's going to be providing fire support. They've got mass drivers with this as well. Ooh, energy regulators. Yeah, seems pretty good. What's their final bulker? C56. How did they fit all of this in one fleet? Okay, this is very skeletal. So they're running these awfully cheap. Interesting stuff, though, also featuring a Bloodhound. That's a lot of fire support they can bring onto a target. BB visible across the galaxy due to fat size. Yeah, I believe that, let's check Vassal's drives. Yep, that is Raider and Dragonfly Whiplash. Okay, so that's going to make this thing quite large, and it's going to be smoked immediately in the snoot by that long-range fire support. Okay, yeah, open here with no cover. That is going to be a lot of direct fire. Mass drivers, rails, and a bit of 450 is going to spell a bad day for that battleship if it does not move out. All right, let's see. So that was the fire support fleet. Blade Steel over here is bringing along 450 bulkers. Pretty standard fare. Has some swing arm launchers on these things. T-20s secondaries. Internal check. Looks like it's got some small hangars on the back there. So we are seeing a couple of pikes and skiffs lift off of the one. The other one accompanying it is also, looks like about the same. C-56s, T-20s all the way around. So good stuff there. BB cannot dodge that. It has... Yeah, it can dodge to an extent with the singular Raider, but it's going to be taking most of this on the chin and suffering as all the rails prevent it from fully bound tanking. So it's a nice little tech there, countering against some of the open space battleship they want to control. Right. They've got a electronic warfare tug here. Has a bunch of things, warblers, dazzlers, and lyrebirds, as well as a illuminator on the, where is it? The side here. There we are. Taking a look around here, we're going to see up here on the C point, uncontested. We see Blade Steel just has a naked capper, just kind of obligatory. Doesn't even include a chaff box. Wow, maximum cheapness on that thing, just trying to get onto point. All right. Let's take a look-see. So that is going to be a 3 cap currently for the OSP team as they secure the A side and the C side, forcing the ANS to move off here. Vastal's just going to be suffering the entire run that they try and get themselves back into cover. The Sir Richard Horp over here is just, yeah, is having the entire front thrusters getting smoked here, 0%. A couple of those rounds will try and bite into this thing and knock out its engines, as well as disable some of its guns. You see already the health bars going down here and all the debuffs added up from those rails barking. So that's pretty strong stuff. Okay. Vastal, pull yourself together. Yeah, Vastal in a bad place here. No cover nearby. It is one of the risks. As a battleship, you are quite armored and can sometimes hang out in that space, but in this case, they expected the kind of long-range firing arc, so they took the tools and toys to counter that kind of play. Lastly, we had Jordan over here, who's running, let's see, this is a interesting device. Has missiles on top, illuminator on here, a warbler, and just a bunch of SGM-2s. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting little tech. It's run along with another one of these tugs here. This one has, okay, this is like your standard multi-mission tug affair. Yeah, okay, so MMT plus its little friend there. That's kind of interesting as a little illumination tech, getting these two tugs together like we've seen Corvette pairs being run. Game is going now, so we just see all of these little fire dots moving across the map here. Just going to turn off the HUD and watch as all of these guns bark against Vastal. My mind's on the, what's that, like the 5 Voxels that need to get into a fight and develop the space. They're going under the map. They are hanging back here to provide like a bit of screening if he gets pushed. They're kind of developing this B side as well. Right, Jordan had, what was it? It was a multi-mission tug down here leading another one of these pairs. Okay, so 2 kind of like police like tug groups, and then they've got their carrier here, which is a super destroyer, a bunch of buff modules in here. Yeah, pretty standard affair if I have to admit. Let's see, a bunch of strike fighters. I don't think they have much else besides that. Yeah, just a couple skiffs, a couple pikes, just nice way of checking that fighter box, getting yourself a bunch of things here. You can get enough Barracudas to contest the skies. You can get yourself some of these little scouting skiffs around, so that might do well. Major push raid that might cost OSP. They are doing a major push over here, but at the same time, what are they giving up in terms of map control? As they've kind of relegated themselves to this sort of corner of the map as they move themselves around here. They're putting a lot of pressure on. It is on them to try and put that pressure against Vastal here, knock him out of the game as soon as humanly possible. Once they've crushed this battleship, they would then be able to split and go for other assets. Can Vastal hold on long enough to cause other things to happen in the game? Top of the battleship is having a rough go at life. Bullseye, cannons, bulk mag, etc. These are all taken out. We are seeing also a lot of fires being started up, but I believe in this thing there should be a firefighting module somewhere. Yeah, the fire suppression system, quite good at helping repair teams cancel out some of that. So yeah, Vastal taking it on the chin. That said, solo battleship on a team with a whole bunch of Voxels trying to play those flanks and maneuverability. So is kind of to be expected. Can't take this much firepower head on, as you will end up having a lot of trouble. That said, though, OSP is kind of giving them the map. It is on ANS now to push around very fast, very aggressively, find the assets that are not in this centralized death ball, and then take a advantageous fight against them. These tugs on the outskirts are quite vulnerable. They could be run up and jumped by something like, say, these fighters over here if they're equipped with bombs, or S1s. These are S1 SAW HE shaped. Okay, so Herman going for the SAW bombing strat, so this could be quite effective against some of these targets if they're able to get them. We'll see just what happens here depending on how these policing ones go around. Yeah. Oh no, not the SAW. Yeah, so this is a strategy trying to max out your fighters with the internal bays and the illuminators on the wings. See if you can't just like mass volume the enemy. It is countered pretty well by flak. The question is, did the enemy bring enough flak or fighters There's also just a lot of fighter craft in the game here from the ANS side. So once they get all their different flights up, they will be able to contest the OSP skies pretty well, since OSP is limited to only the, I believe it's 20 or so Barracudas that Jordan brought here. We're seeing there's about, 20 kind of like kicking around here, 10 of them already airborne. So they're going to be limited in that sense, and you can just beat them in the air brawl. Question is, do they have enough flak to deflect this? I don't know. I know they have Auroras, and Auroras are only able to do half damage against planes, but it's interesting seeing just how this whole thing kind of develops out for it. So, missed the Journeyman? Yeah, I had missed the Journeyman at first. Thank you for the catch on that one, chat. But that was just kind of the last little rounding out thing. I believe Jordan also had, a little T-20 shuttle just as a last little addendum. Okay, so ANS secures their 3 cap. What do they need to do right now? Now they need to find a way to either break up this blob and engage it in a favorable way, or try and tax the outskirts and outliers and stuff of it, so that way they're able to keep the blob relegated to one area of the map and just win through map presence. Because you can't just put all your assets in one spot and expect to win. You have to make sure you're putting enough stuff together that you can take an advantageous fight, but are split up enough that you can still control map presence. Because currently OSP is ahead on points, but they're down on caps. And we're starting to see a couple of those kind of collections going off here as we see, these are just size 2s actually trying to police this thing. Yeah, Corvette walked onto the point here and is going to suffer for it, unfortunately. That is not damage you want to be taking. There goes that VLS with a very expensive hybrid payload that it would definitely want to get off. That said, it did get that cap point. Is going to force the enemy back right into the waiting jaws of the CLs. This is a lovely bait and setup. Yeah, they do get something in the immediate attacks, but they're going to have a bit of time here as now this Vauxhall is going to start chipping away at them. We see that there is some air patrol flights over here, just kind of general like loadouts. We've got some rocket pods, we've got some 35mm nose guns there, so is nice tools. Question is, what happens when the ANS commits to a bunch of their aggression from these different angles? All right, so saw dump is attempted into the enemy front line, which is kind of working, sort of. We're going to see some of them start getting through into the Ocello here. It actually does pen, takes a little bit to add up. That said, a lot of these fighters are going to be eating a bunch of flak rounds and Auroras and basically just dying for it. So for the damage they got, was that worth 2 flights of fighters? I don't think so. They did do some damage to the armor. They redded out the bottom gun. They got a little effect on target, but you do not want to be running into that much stuff. Okay, Furball kicks off over here as there's just going to be missiles galore. Holy shit. All right, so yeah, both flights of fighters here are going to be engaging into these as they were attempting to do some bombing silly shenanigans. Unfortunately, they are not kitted for their anti-air roll. The use of the nose gun here and the 35mm, as well as just the mass of fighters and tasking priority and stuff there. Basically, this is going to be why you don't see people trying to do this kind of thing. Bit of a poor execution there. Yeah, I don't want to be too hard on like Herman here because he's trying something kind of interesting, but definitely don't want to be throwing your fighters away like that. That's about 24 fighters down the drain of the selection you had there, which, don't get me wrong, you do have a bit of magazine depth in the flight decks here. Like, you can get yourself up with a bunch of fighter wings. I think they still have some more left to air, right? Yeah, they still got some more left to air there, but you can't just be throwing away your craft like that into isolated engagements, because as we saw against that, where is that Ocello even? It's one of these ones. Yeah, it was this one. They took like a little hit, but that was not any meaningful damage, and there was nothing else going on to engage them at the same time. So even if they had been hurt, there would be no immediate follow-up. Now we're seeing, unfortunately, Jeffsky getting bled out here as this Vauxhall walks into the wrong neighborhood, taking mass driver fire and then a bunch of 450 as well. Lurks in the wrong part of the map and just gets rolled up by a lot of frontline there. So ANS played a very particular style where they're trying to play with Vauxhall as like kind of the lone solo tanking asset on the frontline role. Actually, are they meant to be frontline, or are they just going to be spyglass? No, this is Parallax, so this is meant to be frontline, like kind of nose towards enemy broadside if you can battleship, although it lacks a radar drive for optimal dodging. So Vauxhall could be that centerpiece and then allow these Vauxhalls to then move around, trying to like play the flanks and stuff. But unfortunately, as we're seeing right now, Vauxhall got punched in the teeth right at the start of the match and is now having a rough go of life as they have to go to ground, have to try and avoid this big enemy frontline death ball that's pushed into their field. Now they're starting to get some actual engagements here where we're seeing up top now, these Ocellos have to take cover down here. Vauxhall's guns starting to open up, the Vauxhalls as well. Now they're starting to get the combined arms style that you want to see with the light cruisers and the battleships or Axfords on the front line. So ECAP is starting to go off as Jordan has moved to tug over here. Hello from the bombing run here. Unfortunately, yeah, Das going to be found alone here. Most of these are going to not have impact on target as the CL does have enough armor to take most of those hits or otherwise evade here since it is fairly nimble to begin with. A couple of RPF rounds probably going to be taxing away at these things here. Does Herman have anything set to attack? He's just trying to lurk around the back of the map to not get spotted by any of those fighters and stuff. Seeing a couple of these missiles going off here now. These are kitted out to smack into tugs EO with Awake secondary to keep it flying straight if Dazzled is just going to gut this thing. There you go. That's going to be a nice pickup there. So that's taxing some of Jordan's stuff as well as a Reactor Bloom for good measure. Very nice. So ANS maintains control of the E point. They're currently on a 3 cap. It is on OSP to lever some of the advantages they have worked. They've already got themselves a kill against the Voxel. They've wounded Vostal, who is maybe not like feeling the best right now, given that they are missing quite a bit of their essentials now. They must have gotten run up by something while we weren't looking. Didn't actually see what, though. Maybe it was just a bit of... I don't actually know what might have attacked their drives there. Maybe just the Acellos coming in from the flank. Anyways. Levies spotted by Acellos. Yep, so in this case now, this is one of the other problems of sitting yourself in the deploy zone just playing carrier game, is that you forget that you have to move as well. These are locked into flight quarters modes. They do not have the maximum velocity that they want to be achieving right now, getting the hell out of the potential fire arcs here. You can already feel them preparing to do a silly strike. Speaking of silly strike, we're seeing a screen of fighters here moving around the back of the map. Jordan on the ball here, points their early warning backwards, is going to be picking these up, I believe. Where's the fighter list? Yes, does detect them, already has an intercepting flight ready here. So these guys, they are low on fuel here. They've got a combat time of about 2 minutes. After that, they're going to fly straight back to their carrier, and that's going to be bad. Kind of a good tech, actually, here. I was hesitant about this before, but early warning radar on your carrier as like a backup or like checking the corners of the map, kind of cool. Anyways, bombers come off the deck here for the Levy, and we're going to see if any of these actually make their way through. Looks like double Acello here in terms of point defense is just pretty good for that one. Rails and Mass Drive is apparently onto the Levies as well as a bit of other fires. They're going to be having a bad go. Yeah, you do not want to find yourself over here. You need to get underway. Unfortunately, these things are just regular drive, no whiplashes, a lot of damage being dealt here, only a rapid, and that's not, no, that's a small alker, but still, only 2 teams, not going to be that great. They're trying to get their way out and just are having a bad go at it. I want to say execution error, picking the wrong targets at the wrong time here. Hornet basically bingoed on fuel, needs to go for an attack right about now. Bastion Flight and Arbiter are both hanging out. Oh no, they're going after a dead ship instead. They don't realize that this thing has been actually killed, so instead they're illuminating, going for the hell dump on a dead target. No, Herman, unfortunately in a moment of panic, as we're seeing in the backfield there, they were getting constantly attacked. Decides, I just need to dump and go for something now, so they're going to try and take out a shuttle, which unfortunately was already dead. And is now definitely dead. Well, there you go. That's the Alliance naval budget fully invested into killing dead ships, as we've seen there. And then we're going to see them now getting engaged into a fighter furball as the rest of the front line develops. These fighters here, completely out of missiles, only have the nose guns, are going to just get eaten up by these Barracudas in equal numbers. Barracudas have the advantage with their 35mm guns that they're able to bring onto target, since that is the advantage they paid for. That's just going to be more and more of these fighter craft just getting swept up here, going uncontested. Yeah, that'll be it, Chief. Let's see. You're in Team 1 voice chat. They thought it was a carrier, and now Herman's in shambles. He realized it was a shuttle. Oh, no. Yeah, so now realizing there's like, oh, that's the carrier. Yeah, a nice juke there as well. Not getting the intel. The 2 fighter craft kind of hanging around here. Thought it was the carrier that was actually off to the side. Instead, hell dumps this thing thinking, hey, if I kill the carrier, that flight is worth it. No, that is not the case. You do not get the 1,000 point or so asset that is this light carrier. Instead, you just hell dump on a dead shuttle. Ooh, F in the chat for that one. Anyways. ANS has unfortunately lost their natural here and is probably going to be losing their carriers. Fire has now swapped over to the other one, since the first one here, the Cosmic Horror, is mostly out of the game, is stopped moving, is having a rough time. Mass Driver is starting to impact here as well as that 450. Not the most accurate fire at this distance. That's basically maximum range with a not ideal track. It's actually pretty passable. Let's check 2-track correlators. Yeah, okay, that'll work. So still just max range, ends up having some inaccuracies. One of the carriers does go down. The other one is unfortunately going to go the way of the Dodo before too long. We see it has already lost its drive, so it's not going to be able to run and repair in time. So that is just going to be Herman pretty much knocked out of the game for very little impact on target here. I like the concept of the fleet trying to do the saw spam stuff, but with that being said, that was not the execution you wanted to see here. Anus, unfortunately, playing this very isolated. You see Herman does have another flight back here, so might be able to get one last run. Still, those 6 fighters left in Bastion flight, as they are kind of just hanging around here, playing the screen role. These guys do have gun pods, which are going to be better than just the regular, like, 20mm nose guns. The question is, do they see these fighters coming? They do. They're starting to fire off a bunch of their HE frag missiles, so actually getting some air control here. Maybe we'll see some actual play out from these things. Yeah, okay, here we go. Got some variety of HE frag missiles. This is going to start being a dogfight. Some have Illuminator, some have the 20mm nose gun. No, it's not the Illuminator nose gun, it's the Illuminator pods. All right, so here they go head-to-head, bunch of missiles getting fired off, being forced to evade. Looks like the engagement going initially in the favor of the OSP there, but then they're all diving after one ship that is, like, super evasive. Still, though, this was kind of Why did they not fire their guns? Okay, that was weird. OSP was firing their guns. We could tell about the flechette rounds, but it looked like ANS just didn't shoot their weapons there. They had a 2v1 advantage. I don't know why they didn't fire. They fired off their missiles and they had that. That's very peculiar. Possibly was trying to task onto Arbiter Flight and then got caught up in the meantime? Issues with Craft being perma-evade locked? Yeah, I've also noticed some issues with Craft just having like a weird case where they won't fire their guns. Anyways, RPF being pretty good. Yeah, that was a super weird dogfight. Like, ANS should have handily won that. They had missiles on the Joust, they had their guns and stuff, but it looked like they just didn't fight? If you didn't notice it happening and split your fights, they'll run away. Yeah, so maybe it was like they were tasked onto Arbiter and then got engaged onto Bastion and just had like a weird like micro fighter control error. Anyways, we're now seeing the voxels here starting to sweep through here. So this is kind of what you want to do. You want to have your fighters in the peripheral of voxels. Voxels can do chip damage up front here to start chipping away at these various fighters. You see them already brought down super low. So a engagement here with a couple of fighter craft could be very decisive if they had chosen to engage at that time. Unfortunately, as we saw there, ANS just largely picking isolated fights on their own with their assets, not properly grouping up. So basically, it's been OSP's game to pick and choose their engagements here as the ANS just been sort of been isolated and falling apart as the OSP coordinating their fire. Now we're seeing the ANS actually getting something done as these voxels start coming around the corner. Two of them from different angles, actually, with the Vostal battleship up top here starting to push this tug back. So that's going to be a free pickoff for them as they start moving around the map. Worth noting, ANS, despite being down their carrier player and losing a voxel to this, Jordan is pretty much bled out on tugs, and their fighter craft are still like present, but not as many of them here as before. We see in total there was only 4 Barracudas. So overall, did the Barracudas get their bang for their buck? Absolutely. They held off a lot of the combat flights here from the ANS side, but what is going to be the later state of the game? Are they going to be able to run out any of those guys as like rocket pod bombing runs? Are they going to have anything left there? Are they just going to be trying to use their pikes and their skiffs out here just to do a little bit of scouting and screening and duty? OSP has a pretty big advantage with ANS being down to fleet, but Jordan has also been taxed pretty heavily for it. I would say that ANS is a little bit on the back foot right now since OSP is able to try and engage here, but OSP does also need to try and group up a little bit more, see if they can't pick a fight. They've been kicking these carriers here for a good long time, and unfortunately this is like 6,000 points worth of OSP stuff in the backfield there, so let's see, what do we got here? Should be able to be through, burn out the Auroras, shooting down them. Oh, okay, here we go. So here's another thing to consider. Burning out your Auroras, shooting down craft here as they've just been set to battle short. That's going to be a lot of damage dealt to this thing. I don't know if DAS has expended any of the missiles in their backpack. Looks like they've expended a couple, but that's still a lot of hybrid threat that is left now. And with the Auroras being taxed the way they were, that could be a pretty big difference. All right, here we go. Now we're getting a proper furball as Wasp Flight takes on Arbiter. There's 2 Wasp Flights, actually. All right, well, we're just shortly going to be 1. Here we go. Yeah, RPF rounds into the mix there, keeping some of those fighters flying evasively or otherwise finding a attack. That's going to be most of the air wing from the OSP brought down finally. We now have a couple of these fighter craft set to the kind of air control mode, not the like Hell Dump HEI missile size 1 thing, but so just looking to pick off everything that Jordan has on the map. Jordan just basically down to the carrier. Still could go sit on a map or provide early warning, which is a nice little tech here. I was kind of hesitant at first, again, saying go for the early warning on this, but seeing the use case of it now, being able to like watch for these kind of like edge flanks here instead of playing the early warning tug like frontline spotting duty, I'm starting to see the purpose of why people are running that. You can still get yourself a chaff box here for personal defenses. You can keep your small hangar in that large mount, but this is a viable tech now if you're worried about potential flankers on the outside of the map, like we saw we're trying to be run around. Anyways, here comes a hybrid missile looking to get into the tail section. Looks like it got soaked or ran out of fuel. I'm not actually sure why that didn't impact. Maybe it got AMM'd or something weird with desync. We see the blast fragments there, but anyways, that is a good target to pick off. That said, it is also just completely out of its like important stuff, the fighter craft, so not really doing much more this game. Just kind of hanging out, having a good time. All right, looks like Compass down here is going to be eating a bit of the 100mm flak off of the secondary batteries on this 450 Bulker. Dr. Blade Steel is one of the frontliners here, so they're going to just be trying to pick up anything valuable they can. OSP anti-missile ferries? Yeah, void ferries are a very real thing. You have to watch out for them. Camera's being a little screwy. Hang on, let me just recalibrate. There we go. That should be a little bit better. Not sure why it does that sometimes. I think I just nudge it a little bit when I go on break or something. Anyways, Compass Flight is getting its health bar tax there. That is going to be basically dead in a second once those shots bark. Speaking of shots barking, okay, so Das in the wrong angle here, going to get caught in the broadside by some 450. Do they start evading in time or not? That is a lot of 450 from afar. I don't think it's going to find much purchase. A couple of them are going to hit here, and we see some impact, but still not the greatest accuracy at this distance. They don't appear to have a Bloodhound lock on target, so it could be a radar track error. Could also be that they do not have gun plotting. Let's see, do they? Reinforcements all the way around. These things are built up super well. I should actually talk about this. So they've given up a gun plotting center, which is normally a pretty squishy module, in order to mount what appears to be a... Where is it? Yeah, double magazine setup here with a bunch of reinforcements. So really tanky, a lot of survivability, big storages, complex, 2 magazines here, tons of ammunition, tons of restores. These are meant to take a hit and dish it out, but they do not have the same accuracy that a gun-plotted 450 liner will at that range bracket. So they're going to struggle a little bit here. See some shots barked out in return. Not going to do too much. Again, these are meant to take a hit. So we're going to see DOS trying to move their way onto the A point. Probably is going to park the little jammed Corvette they have along with them on that point and then go to ground as best as they can with those Vauxhalls. Take a look around the map. We see Caiaphas Payne here on Safari trying to get themselves over towards the B point as, well, again, OSP took some favorable fights here and was getting some value. ANS is starting to tighten the noose with these caps. 638 here entering into this kind of like later game. We're going to see a little bit of things go down here. Carrier hit. Nice. Yep, so the carrier does get hit here. They managed to get a bombing run of some sort off. I believe that was Nightshade Flight did its torp run. Can't actually tell if it has torpedoes or not because I think the ammunition count is bugged. That is a missile, an HE frag. So there you go. CMD Wake, Christopher's big brother. We see some of these meant to see off bombers like we were discussing before this stream. So, or before this game rather. Same stream, different game. Anyways. Yes. Cool seeing some tech go off here. Ooh, oh, with the reverse sweep. Okay, interesting. Looking around for fighter craft. Gonna maybe find one. No, unfortunately, pikes are very evasive. Oh, it's coming around again. Okay, well, that was damn cool if I ever saw something. Shit. Must have set like a waypoint and then bounce back with that thing and the Wake Seeker kicks on. All right, well, that's damn cool. Anyways, just like I said, Das moving on to the point here. Not going to be able to be shot by the OSP's broadside or bulkers there, as there is a rock in the way providing them cover. Is going to start trying to get jammed out by the jammer tug accompanying. Wasp Flight here, pretty depleted on munitions, no more craft for them to engage against, so just going to be trying to occupy the enemy attention for the moment. Possibly Bingo Dawn, no, not quite Bingo Dawn fuel, but looking pretty close to it, yeah. Meant for sturgeons, not pikes. Definitely meant for those larger, less evasive craft. Pikes are damn agile. They have negligible mass, and I'm pretty sure we did the math. It's enough like G-forces in one of these things. You go from like 0 to 200 meters a second in like the blink of an eye, and you would basically pace the fighter pilot, but we're not going to talk about that. They're just built differently. That's the case. Anyways, frontline brawl kicks off here as Das is going to be finding out that yes, 450 does in fact hurt as they put their nose onto the enemy and they start getting some of those shots here, hitting that central stack. Noticeably, it does seem to miss most of the front up here, although it does bite into this midsection compared to something like the 250 or the 100 mil, which likes to bite off the front of the Vauxhall. So they're suffering a little bit here. Still, they're going to be seeing a bit of damage dealt here. Ruse and Kiss is designed to take all of these hits and keep on trucking. So ANS pulling through as they have secured themselves a 4 cap here, despite the initial advantage that OSP had and the fact that they managed to work a good favor, killing off Herman's carrier there, killing off one of Jesky's CLs earlier, booping Vassal on the snoot, seeing that the battleship has had a lot of combat damage dealt to it. You see plenty of these systems have been knocked out. Still, ANS is in the game. They are holding the points. That is what it is about. You can take the most favorable fights and still lose on caps. This is a very interesting turnaround. Just how much the OSP went after the dead carrier pair, put themselves in the back of the map, chasing an already dead asset, and then realized, oh shit, caps are a point. I need to go and get those things engaged on. All right, Wasp Flight coming down here, trying to pick off Voodoo. Let's see if they get it or not. Bunch of 20 mil trying to go off here as they enter into point defense range. Unfortunate there. Believe that was possibly deliberate baiting by Blade Steel trying to pull those fighters back here. So going to be good stuff there. All right, these guys are unfortunately out of fuel, so cannot be controlled anymore. Just going to fly off to their death as they try and return to their already dead carrier pair there. Still occupies the T-20 gunners for a quick second or two. Vostal is up top along with Jeffsky, who is looking pretty worse for wear at the moment. Still, Vostal might have something to say about Dr. Bladesteel over here. Going to be rotating their guns over by the looks of it. Currently are bingoed on the HE shells, starting to get that magazine back up, getting that 650 HE shells back into the game. There you go. Double mag on this thing. Looks like it's used up the one, but the secondary will fire. There you go. 450 HE flying out. Going to be finding purchase into these bulkers momentarily. All right, there we are. Yep, right smack into the top, and going to knock out an ammo elevator, do a little bit of damage to the storages as well. Again, these bulkers are designed to take a shitload of damage, but the question is, are they able to take this much damage here, and can they get onto the point in time before the ANS wins on caps? ANS 800 points to the OSB 600. OSB needs to make caps happen right now. Dedicating 2 Acellos over here, possibly a misplay, as this is a lot of points allocated to just grabbing a cap point. That's totally how English works. Thank you, Nekoboy. Could be sending another one down here, trying to get towards the E point. This is something that you need to look at in the late game, as the OSP is suddenly realizing, oh shit, yeah, ANS does win this on 2 cap. Thank you, Firebird, pointing that out. Yeah, they will fill up 200 points here faster than the OSP will fill up like 300 with their 3 caps. So they really need to secure a 4 cap. Can OSP do it? What are they pushing with right now? Davened over here going to be trying to walk their way towards Seaside. Unfortunately, this is a skeletal railgun Acello, so it will die very fast if attacked. Davened also trying to go with the skeletal builds on these things, really trying to get the maximum firepower, but you do give up the resilience compared to something like Dr. Bladesteel over here. Bladesteel is able, no, actually Jordan able to get onto the B or A point, like I said. They're still kept alive just barely here. You get a small locker, a CIC, and a dream. They have not been knocked out proper there, so this is going to let them get onto the A point into the cover of, let's see, I believe this might just actually be outside of radar range. I thought they might have been jammed out by that E-War tug we saw earlier, but I don't think that's the case. So even though OSP does get this 3 cap, ANS is flying closer and closer to that victory. So very interesting game here, as we saw a very painful engagement at first for the ANS. Battleship got caught out in the open. Bomber flights never got their chance to really get their impact on target. Herman ended up blowing a bunch of missiles against the dead ship and then dying in the backline here because they weren't able to evade against that frontline push that turned the backline into the front line. Still, the OSP kind of throwing it as well, as they've not managed to move themselves on point in time. They get a little too greedy, trying to pick off enemy assets, winning the capital fight. Needed to break for points sooner, as, like we said, a lot of the ANS went over to try and tax out the cap fleet of the OSP side, which is sort of a cap fleet, sort of a policing fleet here. It's multi-mission tugs with their little escort friends here. Like this one's got a Warbler on it. It's got lighthouse illumination. Kind of cool tech seeing that there from Jordan, playing a bit of the cap support role, but still in this late game, not having shuttles or tugs or things to throw into points, having to send whole vessels like these 1,500 point Acellos, that's pretty big. And it's about to backgap T. Yep, there's another thing as well. Das wisely keeping one of these corvettes alive despite it being bled pretty badly. It does still have its drive, has its thrusters. Could technically flip the nose of this thing around and use those front thrusters to get yourself higher velocity. This large thruster in the back loves to get shot out by, basically getting looked at. Let's be real. So if they flip this ship around, they can get onto point even faster there. Still, though, ANS slated to take it now as they're approaching the 100 point to win it mark. Another tick, and that will be the case as they reach that 900. This game is to 1,000. So, despite all the advantages we saw OSP getting themselves in the early game, ANS looking to take it unless OSP does something, and soon. Railship here starting to get some sustained fire. Those railguns are quite fragile on current patch. Previously, they were a little more resilient. Now they got changed to a 3-round burst, which is quite potent on the offensive side, but it's only like 125 HP defensively, so they're going to take a lot of damage. Take a moment to flick out here and look at the battle space proper. Let's just turn off all this stuff as we look at the developments. So A side down here, we saw that there was the carrier that could try to move itself onto the point. It is still technically kept alive by that singular arming missile here, I believe called Perry, as long as the CIC is alive and it has power. It is still able to hold this cap here against Das, who is trying to get on point. I believe they have missiles, right? Yeah, they still got 2 of those. So I think this ship is considered offensively capable between that and jammers, but now they need to commit some firepower trying to knock this guy off the point. Still, as long as ANS holds like a 1 cap at this current time, I think they're good. There's not enough stuff to push Vostal off of the C point here. There's not nearly enough stuff that is able to get to E point in time before these caps add up. The D point back cap has been slated, so despite taking a pounding in the early game, ANS is looking to swing around and win it, as OSP completely neglecting the cap presence, going for that big death ball push, and then suffering for it as they overextended, chasing off carriers. Dav over here just trying to still provide mass driver support. Unfortunately, one of the mass drivers does get knocked out here. No restores on this thing. Again, maximum greed does come with its cost here. Again, you want to try and play the game as greedily as you can get away with. And some of the punishments happening here now as Jeffsky starts to actually unload into these very cheap bulkers. Only 3 teams on this thing, no restores, as maximum cheapness that you can try and go for. Reactor is out. Bunch of the weapon systems as well. I don't believe the CIC is... Yeah, it's still redded out there, so no fire in return. Hot damn. OSP might be able to win on 4 cap. I don't think that they do. Not with the state of things going the way they are. They do get this E cap here, but that's going to be a flip for the D point here. Do they know that this thing is even on the D point? I don't think they do. By the time they rotate their guns over and start firing, that will already be a cap here. Jeffsky starting to bite into the Railcello over here. Railcello barking in return, trying to say something about it, but still these railguns very fragile here. We see 21%. It is not able to fire. So these things, again, if you drop them just a little bit lower, then they will have a rough go at life. Plus, rails alone do not kill a ship. They will inflict a lot of annoying crippling debuffs like fires and atmosphere leaks and stuff across the map, but it's not going to be enough to really like knock out a ship. You need the 450 accompanying it for that. Anyways, D point going to be the flip there, and yep, Jordan recognizing the situation now as the A point over here is going to get flipped. So that's going to be that. They've done the math, they've done the calc. Despite all of the things that happened in that early game, we still do get to see ANS managing to pull it out, clutching a win here. I'm going to shout this battleship here because Vassal will love it for you. Right, look at that lovely thing. Whee. Unfortunately, Bloodmoon kind of sucks for taking thumbnails on because I just can't ever get good lighting. It's always just against that like little moon ring thing in the back. All right, so, you know, I think that if I do upload this to YouTube, the thumbnail has got to be Herman hell dumping the shell, right? Like, come on, it has to be. Yeah, we got to make that the thumbnail. Herman's going to throw a brick at me, but it will be funny as hell when that goes through. Anyways, some taxpayers' dollars. Yep, they're asking, how did ANS win Superior Safari Gaming and all that? Cap fleet advantage there, having a couple of assets in the back. Neither team really bringing a cap fleet, but ANS recognizing the importance of the cap points and moving on to them now as the OSP gets greedy, overextends here, tries to punish a bunch of the backline stuff left behind, and completely forgets that, yes, this is a game about who gets to 1,000 control points first, not who can slug it out against the enemy team the best. All right, it's going to be shore bombardment here, properly knocked out as, yeah, just the shots finally finding their way through, structure breaking and killing it. There we go. That is going to be GG. Well played, called. Whew, what a game. Bloodmoon having some weird matches that I've gotten to spectate. I am loving this. All right, post-game damage evaluation. DAS managing to pull 10k on each of their CLs. Good stuff. Herman does not show the damage on these. Bombers did get some torpedoes on target there, trimming out, I believe it was one of the tugs, maybe two of them. Super Saw Dump was attempted, was not quite what you wanted to do with this. Execution error on that, picking your targets and trying to find your way to engage stuff. Also, the fighter combat was really weird that game. I'm not sure why the fighter wings engaged like they did. The ANS won with the numbers advantage. Like, even though Flechette is good, ANS should win that with the just sheer amount of fighters they committed. Jeffsky suffering as one of their CLs was taxed immediately, but the other ones pulling, okay, respectable numbers, giving their variety of targets. Vostal surviving with, it was a 20k damage dealt and then 16k taken in return, losing the top half of the battleship but living to tell the tale. Davenet with a perfectly even 20,000 on their mass driver liner. Rails don't really do much damage, but this one did pull some numbers. Rails are meant to add fire damage to the enemy, which is not tracked. Shore bombardment, 60k worth of checkbox here, just getting that 450 on. Dr. Blade Steel throwing hands in the front line here, 12.5 and 11.5 respectively. So good, tough, tanky bulkers, fun builds on display. Jordan coming in with a couple of the police pairings, like we saw here. These tugs having some of these just like meant to be, what are they? A-Red Act. Okay, so just going for like conventional missile launchers there. I've seen people use talismans to feature SDMs, try and see off like some ANS craft. So that's kind of a cool tech. I want to see that explored a bit more. Something like corvettes, tugs, frigates just operating in pairs, going around, policing the battle space against fighter craft or light assets. Then the little carrier here. Yeah, okay, so little more than I thought it would cost. I was expecting about like the 1k mark, but this thing is still reasonably priced here. There's a bunch of chaff there, seducing threats, has a couple of, yeah, that's the arming missile there, direct saw, HE frag, does still technically count as an offensive despite not being able to hurt anyone, but still really cool stuff in this game. Excellent fighter play shown as they made themselves able to like hunt down a bunch of the Tantos that were committed to hell dumping people with saw, so yeah. Great game. Anyways, I've been NekoboyBlue. That's all I got for this one. I will catch you in the next one, chat. I'm putting this one up on YouTube, and you can't stop me.